Hey everybody, I would like to welcome you to another episode of Pop Culture Gems. This is a series where I, Davis Green, talk to amazing creators, artists, cosplayers, voice actors, and so much more. If you like the interviews we do with our terrific guests, like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the CFG channel. We release Pop Culture Gems on all podcast services and also on our main website, confreaksandgeeks.com. If you like to support the podcast itself, you can always become a CFG member by going to our website, the CFG.store, for completely ad-free experience. Today, I am talking to an incredibly talented singer and voice actor. She has been killing it in the voice acting roles recently. She's played Sango no Miya Kokomi in Genshin Impact, Futaba Igarashi in My Senpai is Annoying, Sajuna Inui in My Dress Up Darling. My fingers are crossed for a second season, by the way, for that.
We all have our fingers crossed for it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Kamiya Karu in the new Rurouni Kenshin, and her most recent and highly anticipated role, Beelzebub in Sandland, the series, which you can watch now on Hulu, and the game that is coming out on April 26th. I am so excited to geek out with her today. I would like to welcome Risa Mei to the show. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic, and how are you? Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh no, it's definitely a pleasure. I've been like I was saying earlier, I was like, man, I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time, but I'm so glad that we were able to get this finally done. So
Absolutely.
So no, welcome. It's awesome. But okay, well, let's get into it. You have a strong background in music, but what got you into voice acting?
So what got me into voice acting was I was cast for Jim Henson's Word Party. This was back in 2019, I believe it was, early 2019. And I was cast for the motion capture actor for Word Party because they needed somebody who was under 4 feet. They were looking for someone with dwarfism, and I've got dwarfism. So I was cast for that role, and they were looking for the voice actor as well for Tilly. And they noticed that I had a younger sounding voice, and they were like, we wanted someone who can understand and speak some Mandarin. And I was like, oh, cool, that's great, because if everything is being recorded live, then maybe I could understand what the voice actor is saying and puppeteering. Because so for Word Party, everything is recorded live. So we have the puppeteers all on one side of the room, and all of us motion capture body performers in the middle of the room. And then they have monitors kind of all around where we can keep track of what the other person is doing. So I'll have my puppeteer, Alice Dinian, who's incredibly talented, puppeteering the face for my character, and then I would be moving around as the body, and she would occasionally also move the head around, but I initially thought that they were going to bring in a Chinese Mandarin speaking voice actor as well, to kind of do her voice as we were recording, because most of the time all the other puppeteers had voiced their characters as well. And so I thought they were going to bring a Mandarin-speaking voice actor. So I told them during the auditions, I was like, oh, great, because I understand and I speak some Mandarin, so I'll be able to play off of their performance in the volume, And they were like, oh, so you speak and understand a little bit? And I was like, very little bit, but yes, I do. And they were like, well, you've got a young voice. We might bring you in for the voice as well. So I was like, I've never done any voiceover work before, but that sounds fun. Let's do this.
Wow.
Yeah. So I, jumped in for the motion capture body performance part of it. We shot for a few months, and then at the end of the shoot, they brought me back in to do ADR in post, because I wasn't able to say her lines or do the stuff while I'm out on the volume. They didn't have us mic'd up or anything out there, so they just brought me in after the fact, and just had me match timing ADR. So that was kind of my first brush with voiceover work.
Wow.
And yeah, not
So
anime work or anything.
so wait a minute though, like how they normally, because I mean, this was a CG animated series, right? The one that
Yeah.
Jim Henson did. Okay, so but they had puppeteers specifically. Like they
Hmm.
had the action. So you were just the body double. You weren't necessarily. Oh, well, I mean, initially when you were doing the mocap, they didn't censor your face. They just did the body motion. You were just doing the body motions, and then they had someone else separately talking for the characters itself. That's how it initially worked.
Yeah, so what we did for Tilly specifically, is Alice, who was my wonderful puppeteer for Tilly's face. She was over on the puppeteering rig and saying the lines as the character while I was acting out as the character on the volume where all of the motion was being captured by my body. So, we had to learn a lot of choreography, a lot of blocking. They were very, very long days. It's very physically taxing. But it was, it's a lot of fun. And yeah, and so Alice was voicing the character during our shoot, and then at the end of the shoot, they would bring me in, and she would kind of be my guide track for timing. So I knew like when to come in, what she was doing, and when, and to kind of like play off of the performances that we did as as a combined team. So it was really fun. Yeah. So it was really, it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge because then you're having to keep an eye on what the puppeteer is doing, you're constantly keeping an eye on your eye line. You have all these monitors everywhere. So you're trying to match body with what the face is doing. And it's a whole nother beast. It's very interesting. It's fun work.
That's incredible. So like, I mean, so after you got your taste in the voice acting as your, which is an incredible experience to be your first voice acting role.
Yeah.
So were you just like, oh, I need some more of this, or tried or transitioned to more into like anime, cartoons, or anything else at that point, or like how did the rest kind of go into effect?
So I after that shoot, I actually flew back out to Japan because I was working on and off for several years over at the Universal Studios in Japan doing suit character acting. So I would fly over there for about 4 to 6 months of the year, depending on whether they have me in for a summer contract or for a summer and a fall contract. And so, voiceover work didn't come back into my mind until I came back from Japan and I was grounded here because COVID happened and all productions closed down. They weren't bringing any more foreign talent into Universal in Japan. And so I was just completely out of a job and frantically looking for work online. And as I was looking for work online, I stumbled upon the voiceover Twitter community, and that was kind of what got the gears going in my head. And I was like, you know what? I really enjoyed doing voiceover work when I was recording for the Henson Company, and we were talking about this earlier. That I did music and that I started off as a singer, so I had a lot of audio equipment just kind of from doing a lot of music, and I'd been acting my entire life. I just never thought to combine the two. And so finally it was like this light bulb in my head came on, and I thought, why haven't I been trying to do this my whole life? Because I love this work, I love the tech side of it. I love the creative side of it. It uses all of the skills that I've learned from the different facets of performing that I've done, and feels like it's this wonderful amalgamation of skills, that I've had.
Oh,
And I
most
finally
definitely.
get to put them to use together. So it was, yeah, it was a huge epiphany kind of moment for me.
That's inc-
Definitely.
that's incredible because like you said, so I mean, you're still relatively new in this. You're only about what 4 years in, I should say, like roughly.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
roughly.
And during
if
that,
you include the Henson gig, then it's about 5 years. But it's like seriously pursuing it, setting my sights on it, definitely 4 years.
yeah, technically, I kind of want to put an asterisk on the Henson one because you didn't initially was like you kind of took the opportunity and then you just went with it and then you put so no, but you're right though, you're right. So I'll say 4.5. Let's say 4.5. That's good.
I'll take that. Good compromise.
Yeah, but even at that point, I mean, you immediately went out the gate. I mean, like you with Genshin Impact was was relatively the beginning of your career at the start of all that. Then you also got like my senpai is annoying immediately, kind of like right after that. I mean, you've been making some pretty big bangers like initially from the start off. I would have to say, which is quite impressive. You. Yeah, and then on top of that, I would have to say though too, how do you get a gig to be like you lived in California, then you flew to Japan to be a person,
a character performer?
Yeah, a character performer at Universal Studios. I'm like, what is that? That is awesome. That sounds amazing.
It's so fun, and I feel like that's kind of the life of a performer. You know, your life just inevitably goes into so many different trajectories of performing work because as an artist, as an actor, you live a very gig to gig lifestyle. And I've started that gig to gig lifestyle when I was 7 years old. I started at a very young age.
Wow, you started the grind real early.
I did. And I started off as a singer, but from doing singing, my mom, who had immigrated here from Indonesia, she was told by, my teachers and people who were around me regularly in school that I could sing and that I could perform. And so my mom was like, oh, okay, cool. Then what do I do? And they were like, you should get her an agent. And I was like, okay. Why not? Yeah, as like a 9-year-old, you're just like, okay, cool, sure, mom, whatever. And so my mom, bless her soul, she didn't, fully understand the industry, and at the time especially, and didn't know that there were different types of agents for different types of performing work. So she looked up a random agent and was like, here you go, audition for these people. And I ended up getting an agent for commercial work.
Oh, wow.
For commercial acting work. And it wasn't for singing, like initially the goal was to get an agent who would help me find singing gigs, who would look for singing stage opportunities like that. Not for commercial. It was just kind of happened that way, and it was a little confusing for me, but we made it work.
Hey, you eventually found where you needed to get. I mean, you eventually got there,
Yeah.
Really cool. Wow, that's so crazy. Was the transition from voice acting difficult or was it somewhat natural when you just started to kind of from like your singing, songwriting, and then and mocap as well? I mean, like, was that how hard was it for you to say, you know what, let me focus mostly on voice acting, and how did it set you up?
So it's very different because the style of acting that I'd done was more so for either on mostly camera,
body moving and stuff.
Well, yeah, body performance, but also stage acting as well. The style of acting between stage acting to voice acting to on-camera acting, they're all very different, whereas like on camera you get the more grounded performances where it's a lot more cinematic and it's a lot more intimate, and then stage is it's a little bit more exaggerated, but that's because you are going to have to make sure that your actions are being read from all the way the back of the room, and then voice acting work, depending on what kind of voiceover you're doing, can range between, anywhere in that spectrum from cinematic, grounded, realistic to super zany cartoon, Western animation to anime work, where even that's a whole nother beast. So
itself, yeah.
it's So I would say there are definitely similarities between like the different styles of acting and swing singing as well. But I feel like the one common thing that threads it all together is being able to act. Having that foundation, that acting foundation, having that vocal foundation, because you want to make sure that as a voice actor that you're constantly able to protect your voice, and you're not going to damage it, because that's how you make money. Yeah. So that's your livelihood. You don't want to lose your livelihood.
Most definitely. And I mean, and like you, when growing up, I mean, was there anything like pop culture things that you were into? Like, I mean, was it like anime, gaming, anything like that? Like, what kind of things were you? Did a younger Risa Mei liked?
Young Risa was a huge nerd. She loved Cardcaptor Sakura. That was her favorite anime. Sailor Moon. Let's see. And I loved Kingdom Hearts. I was a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. And then I watched my cousins play a lot of like Final Fantasy games. So I grew up with a lot of that too. Yeah, I did watch a lot of anime. I watched Inuyasha. I watched Pokemon, Digimon. Like all of that was a part of my childhood. And then being able to kind of work in all these properties that kind of were a part of my childhood, it's insane. And, thinking that I might be someone else's childhood, it's a really, really humbling thought. Something that I never thought I would get to be a part of, So it's really, really cool stuff.
It's kind of funny when like how it feels like the universe goes full circle when something like that happens or occurs. It's like, wow, who would have thought I'd be like playing this character ever in this deal or in things. So no, that's really cool.
Right.
Yeah. Cardcaptor Sakura, I do remember that one. I was like, oh wow, okay. Yes, I do remember that one.
Oh my God. Hilarious. I like made my own cosplays and stuff. It was she was a cosplayer too. Young Risa was a cosplayer.
She was an inadvertent cosplayer, if I remember correctly, because wasn't her friend the one that was dressing up her like into these weird different outfits and stuff all the time? Like,
Cardcaptor Sakura? Yeah. She was a cosplayer, not really by choice.
It just came in. It just came into effect.
Yeah. She just kind of unknowingly became a fashion icon for kids without realizing it, because her friend put her in that position. It's wonderful.
That is hilarious. That's great. And like as I said before, I mean, but you have an incredible singing voice. And by the way, folks, you got to subscribe to her YouTube channel, Love Risa Mei. You will not be disappointed. It's amazing. I have listened to your covers of For Good from Wicked and some other anime covers that you've done. Like, do you have like any kind of process or choosing of what songs you're wanting to cover?
No process at all. I'll just listen to a song and I'll be like, oh, I love singing this song. This is so cathartic to perform. I want to record this. And then I'll go and then I'll record it. That's just kind of been my process. Do I like the song? Do I like singing it? Yes, I enjoy it. Okay. Then I'm going to That is my creative process. Do I like it? Go. Let's go do it.
It's like, there you go. Hey, the simpler the better then. I mean, if you're enjoying it, then that's all that really matters. So, I love musicals thanks to my mom, but I love I'm a musical nerd but the irony of all this is like, I have never seen Wicked. So like,
really?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
So it'll be perfect timing that the movie's coming out right at the end of the year.
Do you know what's funny about that? Like, so people are like saying, oh, so you're definitely waiting for the movie. I personally do not like musicals going into movies because they change a little bit. Like the experience is a little different. To me. The only one that I liked when it came to that was Les Miserables, the one with Anne Hathaway.
Oh Oh yes,
Yeah, they did a pretty good job besides
they
Russell
did
Crowe,
pretty
in
well
my
with that.
opinion. Yeah.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah, but they had pretty really good deals. But like, I mean, do you have like what kind of and you said you've done plays and musicals. Like, what do you have any kind of favorite like musicals and stuff yourself? Like any personal good musicals?
Ooh, Wicked has to be my all-time favorite musical. I grew
Really?
up with it. Yeah, I grew up with it, and it was the musical that I went to go see with my friends when I was in high school. So,
Hmm.
a lot of memories attached with that musical.
Wow. Okay.
Um, but I also love Hamilton.
Of
Hamilton's
course.
really, really good. And I don't know if you've heard of Six.
Oh,
Six
I've
the
heard of
musical.
Six. Oh yeah.
Did you listen to the music?
Yes, I have.
So
This
good.
is that one is like no, I really it kind of sucks when you see musicals that are not known, but then they have really strong soundtracks. Yeah, Six is
Yeah.
definitely a good one. I would definitely say I had never seen it. I've just listened to the soundtrack, but I'm like okay, but it's a great one.
Oh my gosh. So they recently held auditions for Six here in LA, and I
Hmm.
was in I think I was in Atlantic City. This was like sometime within the last 2 months.
Hmm.
Because I was out in Atlantic City doing a Christmas show out there for the end of the year last year.
Oh, okay.
And so I wasn't here at all to
Oh
do the
no.
auditions. And so I saw the audition posting for it and had to just kind of sit there and watch the date pass by me. And I was like, missed opportunity.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Oh no. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to hear that one. Oh
That's all right.
man.
I mean, there will be future opportunities, I'm sure. So it was just, the one time when I checked, I think it was on Playbill that I checked it on, but
Mhm.
I checked Playbill, I think it was, and I saw the audition listing and then I saw the dates and was just like the one time that I'm not in LA for the winter.
Unbelievable. Have you seen Hamilton live or have you ever like in
I have not seen Hamilton live. I've only watched it, I think it was on Disney Plus. Was it on
Yes,
Disney Plus?
yes, it was on Disney Plus.
Yeah, yeah, I
Uh
watched it on Disney Plus.
yeah.
But I would love to watch it live.
Oh my god.
Really
I have
wanted
to
to.
say I
Did
don't
you
know
get to?
now. I did back in 2016 when Lin-Manuel was there back in the day, like when it was there, and I was like first because like this was my first time going to New York on Broadway too, so I was really sure, but because those prices were insane, I think even for its time, I think I paid
Yeah.
like almost like $600 for like mid seat, like some crazy seating up at the
Oh yeah.
nosebleeds, but
Mhm.
I'd say this was like the best show I've like I saw that time, and then after that I was starting like okay I need to go see other shows and just be
Yeah,
able
because
to
they're
split
so
any
good,
games.
right?
Yeah, it's so good. But it's like I was living in Arizona at the time, and then like you have those side troops and stuff, and you have other different kinds of. It really depends on who's playing it on the show. Although
Mhm.
I did see How to Succeed in Business Without Even Trying with Daniel Radcliffe was there. Back
How was
like
that? I didn't have a chance
oh
to watch that one.
that one is really good too. That it's an old one, but I think
Yeah.
because of because I believe when Radcliffe was there, that was like in early 2000, like 2012 or something, 2013.
Hmm.
Excuse me. And him and John Larroquette were just was working really well with it. I definitely would suggest it. If not, you should definitely listen to the soundtrack to it.
That's so cool.
Because
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, well, I'm definitely going to write that down then because recently on my drives into studio, I've been checking out different musicals and
mm-hmm.
musicals that I haven't listened to yet. And what was my most recent one that I was listening to? Suffs. I don't know if you've heard of Suffs.
Stuff. No, never heard of that one.
It's new. It's
Um,
very, very new. Suffs.
okay.
But it's about the women's suffrage movement and
Oh
the
wow.
it's again like Six, like one of those where the soundtrack is just amazing and should be getting a lot more attention than it has. You
Mm-hmm.
know. Okay,
Oh.
wait. Let me
Okay.
write down the one that you suggested. What was it called?
It was How to Succeed in Business
Oh,
Without
right.
Even
How to
Trying.
succeed. Yes.
Yeah, this was like in the 1950s kind of setting, so it's kind of like in a way it's kind of infuriating on how some of these people were being treated, but at the same time, it's like it was the 50s, so there you go.
That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, and then there was this one which I think it was with Josh Groban, it was about a train, or I cannot remember. If I remember, I'll just message you on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Really good. I don't know. I could talk about musicals all day. But,
oh gosh, this is going to turn into a musical interview. Musical chat with Risa.
Exactly. It's like musical corner with Risa Mei. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, I like you were saying before about like how you kind of came to voice acting. I just kind of want to get a little slightly more in depth. But like I'm super jealous of you, by the way, for that, because like one of my dreams was to go to Jim Henson's company, because I've always loved Muppets and like what they've done with Ninja Turtles and stuff, like everything back in the days. But and you worked as a mocap artist as well as a voice actor. Like how was your experience? Like when you were there, like how was your experience overall when you were at the Jim Henson company?
Oh man, working with the Henson company feels like working with family. They've got a very, very warm production crew, warm castmates, like everyone literally is just trying to look out for each other there. But it's the environment is incredible. We got to shoot in the Charlie Chaplin stage.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's massive, huge sound stage, but it's incredibly dry. So we were just constantly hydrating in there. Like I had to have my eye drops at the ready, just like because it was so dry inside. And it felt like a dream, like I think is how I would describe it, just because the people, the environment, the whole process, just it felt unreal to me. It still feels unreal to me when I think back about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm just like, well, I've always loved, like I said, I've always loved Jim Henson and what he's done and what he contributed, really, because I mean, he basically made his own style. I mean, essentially of like puppetry and everything, like all the way how everything physical puppetry, and I don't know how the CG animation is, and just the level of history on being with that, and say that oh yeah, I've done I did a project with the Jim Henson company. Yeah, it's very, very admirable, I'd say.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
And also like just on the kind, like you've done pretty much a lot of different facets in your career. I mean, you like with singing, voice acting, stage acting, mocap, and just like mocap, like I'm really interested, like how mocap acting is like what is like how is the experience, like the experience of mocap just seems very foreign to me, but I know like how much you have to do, the movements, the range and stuff. Like how difficult is specific like mocap doing mocap?
So mocap work is if anyone listening has done suit character work, that's kind of what it feels like. Because you're not necessarily inside a full fur suit, but you kind of have to act like you're in one, especially, well, yes and no, because it comes down to the character that you're acting for, right? In my case, because I was acting as a character that is not a human, I kind of had to treat it the way that I was treating suit character work, where, like arms out to the sides, like legs this far apart. You have to make sure not to clip into the character model. Your movements also, because you're depending on the shot, whether it's close up or if it's a wide shot, or if it's a medium shot, you kind of have to tailor your movements to how close the shot is. So it kind of almost feels like a combination of, I would say, stage and on-camera work, because with stage work, especially if you're doing stage suit character work, you're having to exaggerate your movements a little bit more, just so people all the way in the back can read what you're trying to portray as your character on the stage. And so there's a lot of, that character movement, but then also keeping in mind, like, how close is this shot going to be? Are my movements going to be too exaggerated for the camera, while still trying to maintain character? And so there's a lot of intricacies to it. Sorry, what was the main gist of your question?
Well, no, I'm just kind of was just thinking about like you pretty much explaining it, because like I've just really the way of movement seems like you have to be very particular on how you're like what your role is in the situation, which is very. I mean, you were a baby turtle crying out loud. And just to say, yeah, and you can't you have to be very aware of how you're moving as with that character without wearing a turtle suit, which is like it's
bizarre.
Very odd.
Yeah, it is kind of an odd feeling. Oh, and then I also wanted to add, so when we were shooting for Word Party, and I don't know what this is like for other projects as well, because I feel like, of course, everything kind of differs from one project to the next. So, other people may have had a different experience. Excuse me. But when we are out on the volume, we have monitors kind of on, kind of all around us. But most of the time when we're looking up towards the front, our actions are mirrored from us to our monitors.
Oh, so it's reversed?
So it's reversed. So I would be raising my right arm, and then my character would raise their left hand. And then that's something that I have to keep an eye on, because I'm not only interacting with characters that are out on the volume, which is a little bit easier because, they're, the other mocap actors, like they're physically in person with you. But also sometimes you have to act in these imaginary spaces where you don't have necessarily like a full visual on like where exactly the table starts and ends, where the chair starts and ends. And so you're having to kind of work around these imaginary digital spaces reversed with like the mirror image.
That is insane. That sounds like the most difficult thing to really kind of do at that point, because like you have to literally big brain what your movements are, and knowing that whatever you're doing, it's going to be in the reverse way of what you're doing it. And it's like, that's a lot. That's that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was bizarre, especially when I first started. And I am so lucky for my castmates and Michelin Sisti. I think I'm saying his name right. But they kind of guided me through the character mocap acting process when I first got into it, because I had never done motion capture performance before at that point. Well, not with the silver balls. I'd done kind of like more so body capture performance acting, where I was just kind of like on a green screen moving things around, for people, for commercials, but never with the silver balls on myself. I was moving the silver balls around. So it's a whole thing. It's very interesting.
That's very fascinating, I have to say. But were there any roles that you've played that I'm sorry, let me rephrase. Were there any roles you played that may have been like more challenging than what you than average, or what you that you've ever experienced?
I can now talk about this. Yay! So the most challenging role that I've had has to be Beelzebub from Sandland.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's not that the character is incredibly, difficult, but it's because when I was recording for Beelzebub last year, I was on a massive time crunch. I had to go to Atlantic City for the Christmas show, I believe in at the end of October, but that was kind of still in the middle of a whole bunch of company's like production season.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to cram in Sandland within, I think we ended up recording in like three months. If I think August, September, October. Two months.
Okay.
About 2-ish months. Yeah. But we had to cram it all in to get all of the sessions in within the time frame that I had, you know. And then not only was I just doing Sandland, but I was also doing a bunch of other roles as well. So I was regularly doing anywhere from 12 to 15-hour days. And I ended up developing laryngitis because I was trying to cram so many things in. And Beelzebub's voice isn't particularly easy to maintain for a long time because he's, you know, constantly at a 10 and he's got, you know, young boy raspy voice and it's a little bit textured. So having to maintain that for 4 hours, and I was recording that daily. So I was going into studio every day and on top of that, I was also trying to maintain other clients and other voice work. And it took a toll on my health. I tried to be as careful with it as I possibly could, but because I had to be out of California by the end of October, you know, everybody was trying to wrap me as fast as they could.
Man.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it was a perfect storm, essentially, because it's like
it really was. It really was. It was a lot.
It sounds like the character itself wasn't quite as easy as well as your normal regular time credits. My goodness. That is terrible. You said 14, 15-hour days, but this isn't just for one role. This is like all the stuff you were doing, right?
This is because I was trying to cram so many things into a day. Within a string of like 2-3 months, and it just wasn't very smart. I probably should have said no to some stuff, but
you gotta admit though,
alas,
I totally admit
the curse of being a people pleaser. What do you do?
Some of those roles that you must be like, I gotta do this though. I mean, some of these are like,
I really
you gotta
do. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I looked at some of the stuff that I booked and I was just like, but I want to do this.
No.
You know, like the fangirl in me was screaming, but my body was just like, stop it, Risa. Go get yourself some rest.
Yeah, no
Stay
kidding.
away from the computer.
Like the laryngitis, that must have been pretty, I'm sorry, but no, but
yeah. I mean, I've recovered from that pretty well, but I went straight from like the 12 to 15-hour days, and then we went to Atlantic City. And because I was still maintaining clients and voiceover work here while I was doing rehearsals and trying to mount a show out there, I was also consistently doing about like 10-hour days when I was there. So I went from doing like 12 to 15 to like 10-hour days, but it was still, you know, like compared to like the 12, 15-hour days, I was just like, I'll take the 10.
Non-stop. That's what it is. That's what it sounds like, just non-stop. Wow, that's incredible. And also like which role that you've played, like that you've played you could relate to the most, and why?
Which role can I relate to most? Let's see. I feel like the role that I can relate to the most is a character who isn't even, you know, it's not on like a prominent piece of media. It's I don't know if you're aware of like Arcade Spirits.
Yes,
the Challenger. You are? Oh, yes. That's awesome. That's so cool. I love that.
It's man, I'm a bona fide nerd. I definitely know most of this stuff.
I have so much respect for you. That's so cool. But I play Jinx in Arcade Spirits, and
that was an indie game, right? That was the one that was on Steam. Yeah. Wow.
I was in that. but the character that I played, she has a physical disability, syringomyelia, and it's a disability that affects her spinal cord, her movements, and she has a lot of pain that kind of comes with it, and she has to work around it. And I felt like with all of her struggles that she's faced, I kind of saw parallels of that in my own life, and it was really touching to see that in a piece of media that I loved, in a character that looked so cool. Like
Mhm.
her character design was just so badass. Like she was a goth girl and she was a gamer and she looked amazing. Like she was hot. And I was like, yes, like hot hot disabled girl, please. Yes. And I
That's
yeah,
cool.
and that was it was so cool to be able to record for a character, um, with what felt like very similar challenges that I faced.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely love that. I mean, yeah, the idea. I mean, well, first off, I'd have to say I that's surprising. I did not like Arcade Spirits was like a indie hit in my eyes, like when it came out, and I didn't even put two and
Yeah.
two together on that. But I definitely love that you pulled from. I mean, from like a character like that. Like, did some of your real life kind of did you incorporate yourself with that character when you were playing her or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was able to bring some of the experiences that I faced and some of the hardships and struggles that I had to deal with and carry it over into the character. And so it's really, yeah, like I said before, like it's very rare to get to play a character with, you know, the similar physical limitations that I have. She doesn't have dwarfism, but
Mhm.
with the back issues, with the um chronic pain, with the disabilities, I that's something that I regularly had to deal with growing up, and still occasionally do if I push myself too hard on a like physically on any given day. So
I
yeah,
mean, you were doing mocap for. I mean, that's a
I
lot of
know. I
wow,
was.
and you weren't,
Yeah.
and I mean, you weren't having those. Were there ever days when you were doing that? That was like, I mean, that must have been pretty
Yeah.
excruciating.
Yeah. I've definitely had my fair share of, like, wow, I am in pain. But I was also very diligent with trying to stretch myself out, at the start of the day, at the end of the day, in between scenes, in between takes, like as much as I could, just kind of regularly, gently stretching myself out, just so I won't pay for it as much later.
Right.
But I feel like being a little person, the pain that kind of comes with it is it's become so normal for me that it's not something that I even think twice about anymore. It's just like at the end of a day, I'm like, ooh, my knees hurt. Ooh, my back hurts. It's like, whatever. That's normal Risa stuff. That's okay. I'll just put a heat pack on it and we're good.
I love it too that it's not even limit. I mean, it's not even limiting to you on doing what you're wanting to do overall too. So that's also very great. That's great to hear too. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, and just having with dwarfism, I can only imagine the battles that you experienced just in the industry itself. I mean, like, what did like? Could you like how is the? I mean, I think voice acting is a perfect outlet for like whatever you're wanting to do itself, but then also just going through like live action, like you were saying, live action theatrical and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
how hard is it to kind of get not a non stereotypical role for like for a person that does have dwarfism.
So having dwarfism in the industry it's really tough. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
skirt around it.
Hmm.
It's knowing that you will probably never book any lead character roles. coming to terms with the fact that you are probably not going to be booked for, random extra roles that the next person can book very easily. I'm never going to be the cash register at a supermarket in, um, I don't know, in a random TV series,
Mhm.
I am never going to be just like a passenger on a train
Mhm.
because I stick out too much. I look too different. And it's very interesting growing up in the industry because I I was able to experience the whole I used to get sides as that were looking for kids, like when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, like I would get auditions where they're like, "Hey, we're looking for kids. Come play somebody that's kind of your age." And then eventually I started getting sides for we need someone who can play a character. We need someone who's obviously a dwarf. We need someone who can do creature stuff, All of a sudden it feels dehumanizing because I go from being able to be considered for roles that are for characters my age, roles that are for humans, to creatures um and a lot of the roles that look for little people can be very derogatory, where sensationalized a lot in media. Um, it's very rarely that you'll find a little person kind of in a random piece of media where they're just doing normal, everyday human things.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of a shame. And
I mean, just
I,
just in my mind, I could really think of maybe one, really one and a half. I mean, is with what sorry, the dude from Game of Thrones.
yeah, yeah,
And
Peter Dinklage
yeah,
really
Peter
set the bar.
Dinklage.
Like
Yeah,
that is the standard that we should aim for.
but
For
it kind of stinks though. When I look at it, when I think of it, because I mean, besides you, Risa, I mean, like I know other people that are like incredibly talented, just like you are, and it's just like, and I feel like when you hit that, when you see that, like when you hit that age, like you were saying, when you hit that age of adulthood, and then the only roles that you're getting are, oh, we need you to dress up as this, and then as
yeah,
that, and then you're just not even they're not even giving anyone a chance, because I mean you're an incredible singer, like I would say, and stuff, and it's just it's hard, it's just disheartening to see. I was just, and I will never experience what you've experienced on that, but I could just only imagine the frustration, and I do apologize.
no,
Apologize, kind of
I
put yourself
mean,
on the downward
oh,
on
I
that, but
appreciate that.
yeah.
No, oh my gosh, no, not even. I love talking about these experiences because I feel like it helps the industry and it helps people are when I can bring this awareness to them, just so they know, the struggles that we as little people face in the industry. So it's definitely not a bad thing, and even though I've been put through the ringer with some
Mhm.
of it, I want people to know what it's like to be a little person in the industry.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah,
yeah.
but I just want to let you know that, yeah, but I definitely don't defy you by the dwarf your dwarfism at all. It's just you do a lot of excellent stuff. So
Thank
and
you.
that's all I
Thank
care
you.
about. Yeah. So well, let's get into a better note. No, not bad. So no way to transition out of that well, but my last,
No, of
yeah,
course. Yeah.
but my last question here is like your latest role, Beelzebub, in the upcoming like Sandland itself. I'm looking forward to trying the game out. That's coming out April 26th itself. But like, what is the best way you would describe Beelzebub as a character? Like,
He does not take kindly to compliments. Um it's kind of like watching a character in did you watch the Sabrina, the Teenage Witch on Netflix.
Uh, the new
How like
one?
with all of yeah, with all of like the dark humor and everything. I feel like it kind of falls in line with that, where
Uh,
where he's just like he's this really really mischievous character. He's basically like a 10-year-old boy,
mhm.
but 10-year-old demon boy. So 10-year-old boy, but throw a demon into the mix,
Yes.
he's a fun guy. He's a fun character.
It seems very fairly like rambunctious for like,
Very rambunctious, very, very rambunctious.
oh
Um,
man.
he thinks he can do literally anything and everything, a little bit arrogant. Which he's like, I am the group leader. that's that's Beelzebub.
Oh man, straightforward. It's just straightforward and to the point. Like or he
Absolutely.
walks to the beat of his own drum, it sounds like.
He
So
does.
oh
Yeah,
man.
he does.
I just cannot wait to try this out. I'm glad yeah, and also congrats on being the lead on that one.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
looking forward to
Thank
it.
you.
How
Thank
much
you.
of
Thank
yeah.
you.
And I mean, besides the 2 months crunch time you had, it sounds like you must have had a pretty good time playing him too, as well.
I did. I had so much fun developing his character, and the cast and crew, and they like everybody had a lot of fun with the project. And what an honor to be a part of Akira Toriyama's work,
I
you
know,
know?
right?
Um, and I actually, so fun fact, well,
Hmm.
not so fun fact, but I actually wrapped the anime series recording for that um, about an hour before the press news was sent out of Akira Toriyama's passing.
Wow.
And so it was insane, like finishing up the project. And then, like, on the drive home, I see this news going, like, hey, Akira Toriyama's passed. And I was just like,
That yeah. I mean, that was a it's
it
like
was jarring.
it was a punch in the gut because
Yeah.
it was like at I believe it was like at night and you just like at 8 o'clock at night my time and I'm just like oh Kira Toriyama passed away and I'm just like what, that can't be right. I mean he wasn't even that, comparatively he really wasn't that old, and
No, he
yeah,
really wasn't. Yeah. So
yeah.
it came as a shock to me because we just, wrapped the anime, like I was on this, project wrap high, and I was like so excited to see everything come together because
Mhm.
now I was done recording. I think they only had like one more day of recording left, and that was pretty much it. They were wrapping too. Um, and so I was like, wow. I literally was thinking how cool this is, for Akira Toriyama to have um his new franchise, releasing soon. Like all
Mhm.
of the different projects from it are finally wrapping up. The game, the anime series, and then he's going to be able to watch it internationally, in all of the different languages that it's being translated to.
Mhm.
And I was like that must be such a cool moment, like as a creator, and then for all of us cast and crew, like we were all so hyped for it. And then the news came, and I was just like, I wish I didn't think that
Oh
because
no.
it was just like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
it's terrible. Just thought about something though. Like, you're like, since you played on both sides, which which one would you say would be was more difficult to do? Would you say the game side or the anime side of that specific series?
I would definitely say the video game side, because video games in general, I feel like are a lot more vocally intensive. And so that was kind of when I had a lot of my struggles with my voice, and with laryngitis, having to kind of like work through, like, as I was recovering from laryngitis, having to work through that as well. That was a full challenge. And then also because we recorded the game first, like any piece of media that you start work on, it's the whole figuring out who the character is, developing the character, getting into their mindset, um, and all of that exploration process happened as we were recording for the game, because the game was what we had recorded first. Whereas when we, came in to record the anime, it was almost like coming back to an old friend, because I'd recorded for him before. And so it was like, hey, I get to come back into this world and play again as this character that I already know really well. So it didn't feel like starting from scratch. Whereas for the video game, it did. And then also for Sandland, the game, we had to record ADR, but not to picture, but we did ADR to sound. So that was very fascinating. Yeah, because they didn't have the pictures ready, which is totally fair. They were just asking for me to try and match sound as much as possible, try to land where the syllables landed, just so they could match it up to picture later on. And so that was new for me, and that was interesting. That was tough.
Yeah, that's a big shout out to the ADR, to like the audio engineers too. That must have been
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. They were the MVP for this. Geo at Side LA, you are awesome. You probably won't see this, but
that is so cool.
No, I'm so lucky to work with the people that I work with, because they've got my back.
Oh man, Risa, you did not disappoint. It was awesome to talk to you today. Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. The pleasure was all mine. I had fun. You were a joy to chat with.
Thank you. And folks, you could check out, if you like the interview I did with Risa Mei, you could definitely check it out on all podcast services like Apple, Google Podcast, Stitcher Radio, all awesome podcast services out there. Or go to our main website and check out the full archive on our website, confreaksandgeeks.com. Well, once again, this is Davis signing out. Y'all, take it easy.